Tuning in to the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Project Runway superfans, we are here to give you a fabulous after show. Thank you for sticking with us week after week. I am your host, Amanda Fields-Bennett. To my left is Michelle Uberreste, designer. And we have a special guest on the panel tonight you'll be excited to hear from, Susan K. Wehrley. She's an author, a business coach, and a life coach, and we're going to hear her unique perspective tonight as we talk about the designers and what goes on behind the scenes in the workroom. And we're just really stoked to have you. So,
well, bless your heart. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
You're welcome. Yes. Thank you for being here, and you look beautiful.
Oh, bless your heart. Thank you.
Oh, well, I'm just a fan of the fact that your book, which we'll talk about more later, has a cute little illustration of you on the cover. And you're wearing your blue to go with it today, so I think that's very cute.
Thank you.
Coordinating with the cover.
It's all about fashion, right?
It is. You know. And it goes with your beautiful blue eyes as well.
Thank you. Aren't you sweet?
Oh, thank you.
I'm calling you every day, I'm telling you.
So tonight we have the Heidi Klum Intimates Challenge. She has her own lingerie line, and she brings out these beautiful mannequins with all of her different colors of lace, her styles, and she even has these images of her, of course, modeling them, because why wouldn't she? She's amazing. And as you all probably know out there, Heidi Klum has been a supermodel for many, many years, and she, had been in the spotlight for a while, and then, of course, became a Victoria's Secret angel. So she would do that show every year, and famously did the Victoria's Secret runway show not too long after having one of her children. Mm-hmm. So that was a really exciting moment, I think, for women out there, just to see her working so hard and being so proud on the runway. So this winner this week will be able to have their runway look reproduced as part of Heidi Klum's line and sold on her website, HeidiKlumIntimates.com. And it was really exciting to know that she was going to be the one that they had to impress. And she got to go into the workroom with Tim Gunn and really see what they're working on. And she wasn't shy to give them her real opinion. So right away, what was your first impression of the challenge?
I think it's pretty cool because, first of all, you're basically trying to please Heidi Klum. So, I mean, that seems difficult, but out of any client you could choose, everybody knows Heidi Klum. Everybody knows what she's like, so the designer should already be familiar with this. And it's a really awesome prize. Not only do you get immunity, but you get to have your garment reproduced. I mean, that's a big deal.
Why is it a big deal to a designer to have it reproduced?
It's always a struggle to get your work out there, get noticed. So something like that just handed to you, it's just like a blessing.
And you would be able to have your name out there too, with Heidi Klum. So it's such a positive thing to have that together.
Well, it says a lot about you that Heidi chose your design, and the judges too, and they think it's good enough to sell to everyone.
What did you think, Susan?
Well, I looked at it from the angle of a business consultant and coach, and I looked at it from the idea of leadership and engagement. And what I thought was interesting is she didn't give them a whole lot of parameters to start with. She didn't basically say, hey, these are the 5 things that I'm looking for that will create success. So they had this open field to play in and figure out what they wanted, and it created a little bit of chaos, actually. I was looking at it, some of them were like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what to do, and they felt powerless because they didn't know what she was really looking for. And then, about a quarter of the way into it, she started walking around and giving a little bit more of an idea of what she wanted. She would criticize something and say what she didn't like, but then she got real clear and she said, you know what? The way you're going to get the ball in the net is, the bottom line is this: the more boobs, the better.
Yeah, she had a great quote: "More boobs, less bra."
Yeah, that's exactly how she said it. You know,
and some designers took it a little too far.
Well, the one that one took it just as far as she wanted it.
Yeah.
I think, right?
Too far or just far enough?
Yeah.
Your decision, really. I think it's every woman. Lingerie is such a personal feeling. It's such a personal decision.
Yeah.
When you're shopping.
And she wasn't saying, "Hey, it's got to be practical, and you got to think of, She wasn't. She said, "Hey, bottom line is, I'm looking for that look."
Yeah, and I think people were trying to stay with like a feeling of Heidi Klum, like a vibe that she would want, like very confident. And as we all know from watching Project Runway over the years, she likes things short, tight, and shiny.
Yeah.
The three things that Heidi wants. So it's kind of like if you know that you want to impress her, you want it to fit exactly right to the body, but some of them went too tight, and we'll get into that too. It was uncomfortably tight.
Yeah.
But you could tell that she really enjoys feeling sexy, and that was... It's kind of, you're exactly right. It wasn't very specific, because sexy is such a subjective word.
Right.
And people feel sexy in so many different ways, and some people would rather just wear like a t-shirt and panties, and that's how they feel really sexy.
But at the same time, you're talking about a bra and panties. So you don't have a lot to work with. And I feel like Tim said it best. He said, if you're going to do something simple, it takes a lot more work to make sure it's correct, concise. And I think that a lot of the designers end up struggling with that.
I think back to one of my fit model clients in New York 10 years ago. This is MFG, Marité-François Gerbaud, or just Gerbaud. People might not know it. It might not be as popular now, but I was hired to be their fit model for their junior collection. And they make a lot of sporty separates, t-shirts, sweatpants. And I'm just giving you this information because I want you to know out there, it is very important where the end of a sleeve comes to, how low the neckline is on a t-shirt, the simple things of like where the logo is on a t-shirt and how big or small the lettering or the font might be. Do you want it to be a softer font? Do you want it to be really bold? Even if it's something like placing a flower on a t-shirt, is it too far to the left? Is it too far to the right? Everything that you put on your body has been thought through really well. And so that's what I thought of immediately when Tim Gunn was saying, when it's really simple, it's really hard. A t-shirt can seem really simple, but the really great t-shirt brands, you go to again and again and again forever. Alternative Apparel, for one, they have like the perfect V-neck, perfect soft worn-in fabric. And also it reminds me of a man's suit. You would think, oh, a suit. That's, pretty simple. So many men wear suits all the time. But again, it's those little intricacies. The lapel, the length of the sleeve, where does it hit your hand? The button, the color of the button, do you want it to be shiny or matte? It's so many little tiny decisions that really separate like a taste level from different designers. And so that's where we come to with lingerie. It's a taste level.
Yeah, and I think it's about detail, proportion, fit, all of those things, even like the fabric that you mentioned. That's what it sets apart, an experienced designer as opposed to, one of these designers that's going to end up on the bottom. And I think, even if you haven't done lingerie before, you should have some sense of that.
And again, I was looking at their process. You could almost tell which ones were not going to be successful just by the way that they were talking about it in their own mindset. If they were feeling powerless and frazzled and they weren't focused. And the ones that were just, in tune with self and listening to inspiration and trusting themselves and going about, saying, okay, this is what's coming to me, so I'm going with it. Those are the ones that really did well at the end, and we'll talk about that.
Would you say that since she didn't give Heidi didn't give the designers a lot of parameters, the designers that chose to go with their own parameters.
Their own instinct.
Yeah, their instinct, that made them feel really confident and successful.
Yes, and the other ones who couldn't get that connection of, with their inspiration, you could see them just floundering, and they were having excuses like, who was that, Blake, who was, having a hard time knowing where the vagina began and ended, just because he wasn't of that interest. And, and really, I thought that was really neat the way they called him out on that at the end. Like, come on, seriously, if you're going to be a designer, you have to understand these things.
I loved what Zach Posen had to say to the designers about that. Like, hello, this is about diversity.
Yeah.
This is about producing clothes for all body types.
Right.
And if you want to make a lot of money and be really successful as a designer, success in many different ways, but if you want a lot of people wearing your designs, you're going to have to think about how different body types will fit into different fabrics and all of that.
Which I know we're not going to give this away yet, but the one that they chose in the end, that's the part that really surprised me, because I didn't see the opportunity for diversity in that style. And we'll get to that later, but that was, she obviously liked just the fact that it was unique.
Yes, I think you're exactly right. What were you going to say, Michelle?
I think that's a really difficult thing for especially new designers. They don't teach you in school that you need to appeal to the masses. You need to learn how different body types are flattered by different types of cuts and fits. And I think, I've seen designers struggle with that.
Especially younger designers like Blake. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the designers on the show, they like to put a lot of young faces on the show to kind of, make it interesting. But it's really different mindsets with the younger and the older, because even if when you have more experience, it's not necessarily helping you with certain challenges. So I don't know, it's interesting how it comes into play with week to week, what their strengths and weaknesses are. Right. And I think it's a great show because it really tests the limits of each designer. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think it really comes down to taste level and understanding, like, people are going to wear this.
Right. And I understand if you have a customer, like, I design for edgy girls, or I design for short girls, or whoever your customer is, whatever they're into. But I've heard so many designers on the show just make excuses. Oh, I don't, they have the normal women challenge, and that's when I hear the most excuses. Oh, I don't dress normal women. I only dress, models. And of course your stuff's going to look good on, like, Amanda. Okay, but can I go buy it? Can you go buy it? Can anyone out there go buy it and feel confident and feel good wearing it?
I just got a really good idea for a challenge. Like, what if you have the models and the models' moms on?
Yeah.
Like, can the model's mom also wear it?
Right.
Like, would she be happy? Like, because they've had, like, the designers' moms on there before, but I think it would be cool to see the models' moms.
Right.
Side note.
And I think that's a true challenge to make it look good on anyone.
Mm-hmm. And some of it, though, is niche. When we think about how to be successful, we think of somebody who really knows themselves and they know their brand and what kind of look do they want to create. Because look at some of our best designers, right? Their work. David Yurman, I love David Yurman. And he's got a look. As soon as I see jewelry on people, I'm like, oh, that's David Yurman. Mm-hmm. And so these designers have to really trust. And I think that's why she gave them this kind of open playground. I want to give this to you so you show me who you are and your brand, and we can create some sort of niche with that look. And again, you could tell the ones that trusted themselves and just went with their flow, and the other ones that were floundering, wondering, how do I please her? How do I please her?
And I love that now we are 5 or 6 episodes in. I forgot to say that in the beginning. We're season 14, episode, I think 5 or 6. Sorry. We'll get that on the screen. But we're into it. So they have this basically blind judging, meaning they don't know which look goes with which designer. And I love that now the judges are starting to notice, wow, okay, that's definitely a Candace piece. Mm-hmm. That's definitely a Swapnil piece. Mm-hmm. Certain designers are starting to stand out, and you kind of know, like, oh, that's got to be
Ashley. That's their brand. That's their look. It's their style.
You definitely want to have your own style, like you said, and I think that's such a good point, because you start to know, oh, that's definitely Betsy Johnson.
Right. Well, when you think of some of the other shows like American Idol, what do they say to them all the time? You've got to figure out who you are, because then that becomes believable.
That's what you're selling.
Yeah, that's what
you're selling yourself.
Right, right.
Because, at the end of the day, your name's on that tag.
Yeah.
Right.
And people want to feel good about choosing that, and, like, what does that represent to you when you're shopping. Like, do you want to be like this brand?
Exactly.
Do you like the person? Especially now with social media, people are starting to know a lot more about your personal life or how much you want to put out there of it. But I feel like, you know, you open yourself up to a lot of positive things, hopefully putting your a little bit more of your life and your background out there, and I think people will resonate with that when they're shopping. But it could also be negative, like John his name's leaving me now. Galliano. John Galliano. I said Jean, but it's John. You probably have heard about that. Anyway, he was designing for Dior. He got fired from Dior because of remarks that he made. If you don't know the story, he made some derogatory remarks about a certain group of people. And so the company didn't want to work with him anymore. And also, Natalie Portman didn't want to do the Dior Cherie commercials for a while. And then they brought her back because they let him go, and now he's redeemed himself. It took a few years of, you know, designing for his own line, and then they brought him back. He's so talented. He's such a great talent. It's tough that will tarnish someone's name when people find out that, well, they have parts of their personality that aren't so great, and they said something that was really hurtful to people, and I don't like that either. But there's so many artists and different people that are talented that you hope you can separate some of their personality from what they can do. But it's tough, because I feel like that's happened a lot in history and art, too.
I think that's definitely a part of the show. You fall in love with a certain person's personality, then you love all their work, you root for them. It's hard to separate it, because it's all integrated together.
Right. And the consumer does identify themselves with that brand, and so you're absolutely right. That's important.
And when you're on a reality show, you're also subject to the editor. As we can tell you. Especially Michelle's laughing about it. So what could you add to that, Michelle?
I mean, I always watch reality TV a little bit skeptically, because I have had that experience and I see how it works. But
cameras are on you all day. So think about it, like all the things that you say during your day on the phone to your friends, to your family. You probably wouldn't want all of that out there, but editors can pick and choose the little snippets.
They can choose whatever they want, whatever day they want. I mean, I don't want to say too much about it, but I mean, everybody pretty much knows what goes on.
It's creative freedom.
Yeah.
And when you're in a workroom with people like Project Runway, you know, and you have, or any kind of setting like Big Brother or Survivor or any of those.
They're creating a hero. They're creating, you know, a nemesis.
Characters.
And some of them.
They call it a story producer, but it's really a writer. Someone that's crafting the tale of, you know, why you want to root for someone.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely weren't scripted, but they can pick and choose whatever they want and put it where they want. And a lot of times it is true, but there's some twisting.
Like someone's reaction can be to something someone said like an hour ago.
Right.
But they're reacting to it, and they like the reaction, and they're like, oh, let's put it there.
Right.
It makes sense, yeah.
It's like Photoshop, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll just put this person next to this person. It looks like they're together.
Right, and then add some dramatic music.
Right.
So.
Make it seem like they were really in a fight, and it was just kind of a minor argument, and they moved on like 3 minutes later, but they're like, no, this was a big plot point.
Yeah.
So is any one designer standing out to you in the workroom in this episode? Did anyone like really catch your attention?
Well, Blake caught my attention just because he was acting out of his, what I talk about in my book, his little ego. So powerless and, oh, I don't know this and I don't know what to do. And I thought to myself, you know, what you think about, you bring about, so you're not going to make it just because of the way you're holding this in your mindset. I thought Ashley. I thought she seemed really confident. You know, she knew what she wanted to create, and this is what she was going to do, and she seemed to be in her flow. So I saw them as being two opposite characters, as you talk about characters. You know, Ashley being more in her ego strength and confidence, and Blake being in his you know, insecurity. And then the gentleman, I always can't say his name,
Swapnil.
Swapnil, yes, with the pretty blue eyes. Anyways, I just thought he was a little on that other end of a little, you know, kind of egocentric, and what he created was, you know, a wow, because it was so different, but it was just kind of really out there.
It was out there, and I like what you said about Ashley being very confident, and kudos to Ashley.
Right.
Because coming from last week, which in reality show world could have been yesterday, so go straight to the next challenge, just so you know. They don't really give them like a day off in between very often. Side note, too much information. But she was able to rise above the mean girls that were picking her last for the team challenge last week. And they also were trying to throw her under the bus and get her sent home, I think because people were threatened by her because she's very talented, she's very confident, she knows what she wants to do as a designer. She wants to design for many body types, and she's exciting to watch. And I think people are threatened by that confidence.
She's very aligned to her purpose, and her mindset is right on.
Mm-hmm. So we're all rooting for you, Ashley. Please call us or come into the studio if you're in LA. We love you. We're fans. Okay.
I'm definitely on point with what you said. I think you can notice right away, like, people's attitudes, and you know it's going to come through in their work, and most of the time they don't change it. Right. They don't stop. Yeah. They're just so stressed out by, I only have a day, but honestly, I think if you took some time aside and said, okay, I need to figure out what I'm doing instead of just work, it's crazy. And you can just tell from people's attitudes, they go in defeated, like they come out with a defeated garment. It's like a manifestation of their thoughts
what you think
and
about,
feelings.
you bring about, exactly.
Yeah.
And I wrote down some of the comments.
Yes.
How am I going to get all this done? This this model doesn't want to wear a thong. Oh no! Remember that one?
Yes. That was Jake.
Yeah. Where does this begin and where do I start? I mean, this is not a good feeling to be in this position. You know, so if you're thinking those thoughts, where does that empowered creativity come in? There's not a space for it.
And a lot of times, Tim Gunn especially will tell the designers, you need to take a step back.
Right.
Because this is getting too overworked. Your design is too, you can tell it's been
forcing it.
Overthought and overwrought. Right. But it's interesting what happened this week because we have Lindsay who gets herself into trouble with one of the sewing machines. What was the machine actually that she was using that injured her hand?
I'm not sure, actually. Probably just a single needle.
I think it was just the needle.
And it went just right through her hand, and it was a pretty bad injury. And even though it seemed like it was going to be, I mean, of course that's awful to go through the pain and everything, having to go get a tetanus shot and all that. Weirdly, though, it was her big step back. It was a way for her to stop thinking about the competition for a few hours. Mm-hmm. She got a chance, even though it was a bad thing that happened to her. Maybe it was, I don't want to say a blessing in disguise because it's not good. But it is kind of because, like you were saying, you can get, into your head too much and so focus on the wrong kind of train of thought. And she was able to kind of pull herself out of that room of...
And it just goes to show you get to hold your circumstances the way you want, right? She could have gotten this huge tizzy of, oh my gosh. She did say for a moment, okay, great, how long is it going to take if I end up having to go in the hospital emergency room? But then all of a sudden she made a shift, and you're right. You can take that same situation and you can look at it like, okay, well, if I'm going to be sitting here, how might I be designing this in my head if I'm not in front of the sewing machine? And clearly that's what she did. She came out with a pretty good product.
Well, and just compare it to last week.
Honestly,
last week I had to make a dress or a whatever. Now I have to make a bra in a day. So,
Yeah, and she's had a lot of challenges with style, I feel, because in her personal style, she manages to wear a lot of things that would seem kind of vintagey, granny, kind of like, could be weird, but she makes it work because she's young and cute, and she wears like oversized things. And in her own personal style, she's very comfortable with that. But when she tries to translate it to a model on the runway, sometimes it doesn't work, and it gets too overdone because she's kind of lost. So this week, she's kind of being forced out of her comfort zone because she likes the oversized, she likes the kind of like Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen vibe, and she's like, okay, I have to be sexy. I have to do lingerie. What am I going to do? Oh, no. Okay, hurt my hand. But it, in a way, like, it was a great thing because she got to leave the torture of the workroom, like the high energy and sometimes bad energy. And, maybe I'm going on about that too long, but I was kind of fascinated that something came about that was so great at the
But
end of
she
it.
chose that. That's the part that I think is neat, is she chose to make that a good thing.
Oh, yeah, so she wasn't stuck
Blake
like, oh,
probably
this
wouldn't have.
sucks. She was like, no, okay, I'm going to take care of myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to, you're right. She came back into it with such a good mindset.
Yeah.
When I read something in your book that I really resonated with too, it was just that quick rundown of kind of the cycle
The
of
ego workout.
and what's motivating you. I feel like a lot of the designers, fear is motivating them.
Right.
And so where is that going to get you? The fear of like, oh, I don't want to be kicked off. Oh, I don't want to be in the bottom. And when you're focusing on that, you just can never do good work.
Yeah,
like the best
exactly.
work that I did on the show, I was like, screw all that. I'm loving this. I'm having fun. I'm enjoying the challenge. I'm not like worrying about that anymore.
Exactly.
And I think it's hard to switch that mindset, but you just have to do it.
That's where it all starts, right?
Yeah.
It's just what we're thinking about in our head. Exactly right.
And I've heard a lot of people say most emotions are coming from love or fear. And so, like you just said, if you're loving the challenge, if you're loving what you do, you're going to make something at least you're proud of.
Right.
It's beautiful to you. And maybe the judges don't feel the same way, but at least it's beautiful
Right.
and well finished and put together. And then the people that are scrambling, you have like a awful hem. Some details just not right. A poorly fitted garment or something because they're like panicking.
Yeah.
So we move on to, we have a twist. Not only do the designers have to create a two-piece lingerie look, they also need to create a cover-up of some kind. A lot of designers went the route of doing a robe. Some people were like, oh my gosh, grab a piece of fabric, let's just throw it on the model, it'll be a sarong. But it's so wrong.
Yes, so wrong.
So wrong. So they have to do this, and Tim Gunn and Heidi are like, well, just come meet us on the runway in 10 minutes. And then the designers see that it's set up to kind of be like a sleepover. And they're like, oh yeah, it actually is a sleepover. You guys are going to get some extra time to stay in the workroom tonight, and then you're just going to sleep here.
You know what I really liked about that challenge is, let's be honest, life has a lot of twists and turns in it, right?
Yes.
And so whether we're hiring an employee or we're thinking of somebody we want to be in relationship with, or in this case, we're thinking about who's going to be the next designer, not only are we looking at that person's capability, but we're looking at how well do they handle life? How well do they handle uncertainty? Because there's uncertainty all the time. And when I really looked at that challenge, I thought, really? That's not that hard. I mean, most times you think of lingerie comes with, something to go over it, or maybe that's just me. I like something to go over it, But I'm thinking that's not that big a deal. But then when they threw in and by the way, you're sleeping overnight, you're taking somebody out of their comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
And then we get to see, are they able to bend in that and flex in that, or are they getting more anxious? And this is back to what you're saying. Are they getting more fear-based in their thinking? So no matter how talented somebody is, if that's the way they're going to be all the time, probably not so fun to work with, right?
Well, yeah, and especially as a designer. I mean, I'll get calls all the time. Clients, oh, sorry, I need this tomorrow instead of 2 weeks from now. Oh, we're changing
Stuff
the entire
happens.
shoot. Do this.
Can you do it?
Yeah, and you just have to compensate for that.
Right.
And I think that's really interesting that you brought that up, because sometimes they do these twists in the show, and I'm like, why? Why put them through that? But then I'm really, excited that you said that, because I love that it's like a microcosm of life. Because as a designer, like you said, Michelle, things are going to be thrown at you, and no matter what your job is in life, there's
Are you
always
resilient?
yes,
Right.
there's always something
Right.
that's going to be from left field, that's going to be like annoying, and it could be anything from a parking ticket to you have to make something for a client tomorrow.
Yeah. Deadlines changed.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to have this too.
Yeah.
So it is really interesting, because people need to be able to handle themselves and their
Right.
business.
Right.
Like you said, as a business coach, you have to be able to know, okay, I've got this. I can
I've
handle
got
it.
this. What great words, right? I've got this.
Well, I think you have to be able to let go too.
Right.
Like if things are changing, let go whatever you were doing. Just let
Right.
it go and move on before because
Good
you get
point.
so caught up with things.
Right. Good point.
Like a lot of designers on this show will be on track making something, and then Tim Gunn will give a critique and rip it apart, and then they're like, oh no, I have to start over. And instead of going, all right, I'm I'm going to start over. They're like, oh no.
Well, and that
So-
goes back to the ego, right? You know,
Yeah.
anytime we're creating something, we're going to be up for criticism. Anytime.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do we handle that? Are we going to be able to say, oh, well, thank you for that, point of view. That's great. And then adjust? It goes back to being resilient again. Or are we going to be deflated, because our ego's in the way and we're like, oh, geez, I was so bad. How could I be thinking that? And, then we're wasting all this time and energy and we're not, moving forward and creating.
Right, and I also think it's really hard for the designers when they meet with Tim because they feel really intimidated.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've witnessed so much of that where the designers are just like, oh my gosh, Tim doesn't like it, so I shouldn't do it. And yeah,
So
Tim,
I'm bad and wrong.
well, I mean, sometimes, he doesn't know what you have in your mind or your vision. Like, yeah, he has a lot more experience than you, and it is good to consider that advice, but if it's something that you feel strongly about, or if it's really going to have something special, your point of view is going to come across. You have to stick with that. You can't just be like, oh my gosh, someone doesn't like it.
Right.
Someone's not going to like it. Someone somewhere.
Of course, you can't please everyone.
Right.
And I think that it's really interesting what you just said about how you react to things, because I feel like, I don't know about you out there, that's kind of like every day. Like, you're always thrown choices at you all the time, all day long. And I feel like I go to a happy place and a not so great place all day long.
And that goes back to the ego strength. When we know thyself, when we know ourselves and we trust ourselves, and we are operating by listening to that inspiration, so we have that inspired connection, then when somebody doesn't like what we're doing, we're like, oh, thanks for your opinion. But we're not devastated by it. We'll take it into consideration. It's not that we block it completely and we're stubborn, but we don't take it into our core that we're bad and wrong. Oh my gosh, I must be a bad designer.
I think it's...
Oh, I need to hear this right now. Some words of wisdom.
But that's how you learn and grow. You get criticism and you realize sometimes you're stuck in your box and someone else may be right. And you have to be open to that.
Yeah, exactly. Open-minded.
But not take insult to it.
Exactly. Be open-minded, though. It was funny how I thought Heidi... I didn't think she was so tough, but she was walking around. She was just saying her opinion, like, I don't get this, and what were you thinking here? And
I would rather hear the truth, so I can move on.
Right. Well, because she was finally giving them, like I said, some parameters and some feedback in terms of what she was going to like or what she wasn't going to like. And I would be like, okay, great. Now I know how to get the ball in the net. But some people were like, holy cow, she's tough. And they got hung up on that.
And it's like, well, no, she's just exactly like you said, very honest and to the point. And I love that it's kind of like Simon Cowell on American Idol. That's why it was so great back in the day, because he wasn't afraid to tell the truth and just say, look, this is not your career.
Yeah.
And she's the customer. I think that's super beneficial.
Oh, right.
Well,
exactly.
and she's also thinking of her customers that shop on Heidi Klum Intimates. Okay, what do they want?
Right.
What has been successful for me in my line in the past? Not only would I feel great in, but who's out there shopping that wants to feel good too?
I think if I was one of those designers, I would have handled it completely different. As she moved towards my table, I would have thought, this is my opportunity to really get in her head. So if she would have said to me, gee, I don't like those colors, or what were you thinking with those straps? I would say, well, I don't know. What are you thinking? I would have been asking questions. Well, what color would you like to see up here?
Yeah.
What were you thinking? And I would have done a little bit more collaboration, so together we could, create something versus just being shell-shocked. Oh, she's tough.
And we've talked about this through our recaps this season, but I think I can agree with Michelle on this. I hope you feel the same way, but I feel like these designers are talented and they're trying to bring this out of them by throwing a lot of things at them. But I feel like some of the people they've chosen are just there for drama and just there for making it interesting, like dynamic of like different personalities.
Sure.
More so than thoughtful designers. Some of them are very thoughtful, so I'm not trying to critique all of them, but I think that what you're noticing is that the producers have maybe picked some people because more so of their personality than having a thoughtful design process. Because I think in the past people were more brave to ask more questions, and maybe they did, and they just didn't show it on TV. Maybe there wasn't enough time.
I think they definitely, cast certain stereotypes to fill that, character spot or whatever. But I mean, it's really hard to know how they're going to perform in that kind of situation. Some designers don't even barely sew. Some designers are used to taking months and months for one dress or something like that. They're all different. They work differently. They respond differently. Sometimes they work in sometimes they
A little sexy if you haven't seen the show. This is a lot of
Make sure the
cleavage
kids
and-
are in bed right now.
Yeah.
You're putting this on your screen.
We're getting ready for some lingerie. All right, we're gonna start the runway rundown with Swap Nil, and his look comes down first. What was your initial reaction, Michelle?
bondage bridal.
Ooh.
I was afraid I could get choked in that thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, just in the other room as I'd be trying to put it on, I could see my head getting caught in between there. I'd never get out of the other room.
I thought it was Hervé Leger lingerie.
A little bit, yeah.
It's very like bandage dress translated into lingerie. But I kind of love it. And I love this model. She really brought it to life, and it was a very dramatic moment with the cover up and the movement of the fabric. So I think
She was my favorite model. Talk about working it, huh?
Yes.
Not only did she have a hot body, but she rocked it when she walked in it.
She has such great, graceful movement too, and you
Yeah.
can tell she's very confident.
Oh yeah,
she has experience.
Yeah, she's
and,
like, I got it right here. Like you said, I got this.
I got this. Oh, sometimes I got to think that right before I walk out on the runway myself. All right, moving on to the next beautiful design. Dun, 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 dun. There we go. We have Ashley. What did you think, Michelle?
I just wrote super cute. I like how she added the little belt on the robe to make it like a little more legit.
Yeah, I love the robe.
Yeah, the model's in the process of opening the robe in that picture. Ba-bam.
I think it's like the whole package.
Yeah.
What did you think, Susan?
Well, I liked the top. I thought the top was really interesting, and yet it was practical. Some of the ones that we're going to see in the future or coming up weren't quite so practical to me. But those bottoms, I don't know. I think she could have done something a little more fun with the strings on the bottom. I'd have liked it a little more stringy.
You like it stringy.
I like it a little stringy. I like the thong song a little bit more. Then you don't see anything going on underneath the clothes. Like
It's like-
this would have been like sticking out for me. I don't know.
It's like the itty bitty teeny weeny purple polka dot bikini.
Yeah. It's kind of like what Oprah said. Oprah said, for years and years, my underwear would go up my crack, and then I bought a thong, and then she's like, well, then I don't have to worry about it because I know it's going to land.
It's already up there.
That's my thought exactly. This one, I'd be worried where that ended up, but
We didn't get a picture of the back, but the back did incorporate the strappiness. She put a little bit of more detail to echo that in the back of the panties.
Which I thought was smart because there's no fat there.
Yeah. Oh, high five. Okay. Yeah. I don't know what I have to say. This is very cute, and I thought it was cozy. I like the fabric she chose for the robe. I think it was a cotton jersey blend, something that feels like your favorite T-shirt, but like a whole robe out of it, which is perfect to go with something that it's kind of like a little surprise how sexy it is underneath that. And she really did think about the coverage of the bra, the cup, the comfort. This is probably the most comfortable looking set you're going to see all night. Yeah. So, good job, Ashley.
And one of the only ones that's going to work for anybody above a B cup.
Hello.
Right?
Yes. Moving on to the third look, we have Jake. What did you think, Michelle?
It was legit, clean. I don't normally like polka dots, but I thought it looked really professional. I think the bottoms just were like a little bit too tight, but I like the strings on the top, and everything looked super clean and well put together.
Okay.
Yeah, I liked the top really a lot. The bottoms, I thought it was cute until you got to the back. And that whole big thing going on in the back, not so much.
I feel bad because this model is so beautiful and so in shape and skinny and pretty. And she has had to wear some clunkers this season. So shout out to the beautiful redhead on the runway. We love you. You're doing a fabulous job, and you had to wear some crazy stuff. But it's kind of like how I had to on my season. Oh, man. But I also got to wear some great things, too. But Jake, I wish he would have stuck with his original plan. I don't care if it was too junior and too cutesy. There is a market for that.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it's not Heidi Klum Intimates, but it would have been more.
I guess. I thought it looked more refined this way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, To each their own. I kind of liked the big piece of lace and the big bow because it was a theme. He was going somewhere with the polka dots where the polka dots were like guiding him to be. And so I think when they were like, is it too much? Jake was starting to feel
insecure.
He's like, oh, is this too much?
Right.
What's too much? Oh, the bow? Is it the lace? Is it the polka dots? What's too much? And they're like, everything's too much. And they didn't really tell him what to do.
So he just took everything off.
They can't really guide him specifically because he's not really a designer for Heidi Klum yet.
Yeah.
So they have to let everyone kind of have an even playing field. But I wish they would have said, like, no, just go in a different direction with it. But more specifically what direction they wanted him to go. Because this, to me, I liked what the judges were saying, especially Bella Thorne. She was the guest judge tonight.
Yeah.
And as you know, she's been in several movies and TV. She's kind of popular with, like, the Disney Channel crowd. But she's, of course, now coming into her own and growing up a little bit. And this was a good episode for her to be on because it's like, oh, now you got to talk about lingerie.
I thought she was actually really insightful, too.
She was.
Sometimes we get the judges and they're like, they don't know, like, anything about fashion, and I thought she actually was very thoughtful.
Well, she was really smart. I liked that she pointed out with the panties on this the unfortunate placement of the strings on the bottom.
Right.
Like, it was just not
and that's
flattering at all.
exactly where we worry the most, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is a design that was made by one of the male designers, and he, was using the disadvantage of not wearing lingerie all the time. Like, he was letting that get into his head too much, like you were saying, Susan K. Susan K. all day. So this was just, I think, again, like someone that didn't take a step back enough. He just started changing it, but without like a clear decision. It was just like, okay, I'm going to change it. I'm going to less bra, more boob. Okay, I'm going to eliminate the whole side of the bra. Just put a strap. Like, oh.
I feel like he's been that way all season. I'm like, who is
reacting?
Jake?
I don't know what his, like.
What is he?
His design is kind of a non-design.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Back to brand, no brand.
Yeah, Jake, what's your brand? Okay, Edmund is next. And thank God he had immunity. Because this was a travesty. I'm sorry. It was all wrong. Okay, Michelle, what did you think? That says it all.
I didn't like that. I liked the purple with the darker purple, but I didn't like the nude mixed in there. It was very strange. And then there's this weird little stripe. It's like not a good, and it's ruffly. It's just not good.
It's not what you want down there.
I don't know what these are. It was just confusing to me. And again, the bottoms are too small. The model, look at her. She looks so tortured.
Yeah.
What did you think, Susan K.?
Well, just not flattering, that's for darn sure.
Yeah.
There's nothing flattering about it at all.
And you can tell the model does not enjoy wearing it.
Oh, yeah.
You can tell right away in the model's face.
If this isn't an example of you can read people's minds, right?
Yeah.
They say communication is 10% words and 90% body language. We know exactly what she's thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she's just not happy.
No.
And you can tell, to me, I wrote a lot of things down, but the bottom line is the way that the panties fit are so uncomfortable looking.
Yeah.
They're cutting into the side of her body.
Yeah.
This beautiful model that doesn't really have much to cut into.
Right.
It's just way too small.
Just think what the average person's going to think. If she doesn't look great in it, oh my goodness, what am I going to look
What's
like?
going to happen to me?
Yeah.
And also, the bra didn't do really any pushing up.
No.
It wasn't, the bra might be okay for day to day.
Yeah.
But on the runway, you kind of want it to be pushed up, but have a little bit more action up there.
Right.
Again, I agree with Michelle. I hate that nude strap and the panty. It cuts the bottom half of her body in a weird way. It's like a vagina stripe.
It is like a little...
And it's like the opposite way that it's kind of like they say horizontal stripes and vertical stripes. They're, vertical stripes are more flattering. You don't really see too many horizontal stripes on it.
It's just placed funny.
Pulls it up here. I mean, it's not like he has lace up here or anything.
It doesn't relate to each other. And
No.
and at first we paused the TV show to take the picture. And I was like, what is that on her leg? And it's a piece of lace that's nude on each leg, like a garter, like a bride's garter. But it's there kind of haphazardly, and it doesn't seem like it has a real reason.
Yeah.
Okay. I could go on about that. I tried to make it simple. Sometimes I go on too long on these runway rundowns, but I have a lot to say. Moving on to Lindsay. What did you think, Michelle?
I thought this was super cute. I like the cut of the bra. I even like her kind of like little boyfriend thing. I think it works with this. It's kind of like young and fresh and exciting.
It is.
I love, love, love the bottoms with the little peekaboo thong underneath. You know, I've never had this problem where I would, you know, need to be concerned about something like a push-up. But if I had her size breasts on the top, I think I wouldn't have liked that. I mean, I would have wanted something that was going to give me a little oomph or an illusion of a oomph. And that, if they would have put that in there, some little, you know, underwire
padding.
And a push-up and some padding, and you would have got just a little then I would have said this would have been the #1 winner. Or even give me a little more material on the top with an illusion that that whole breast is bigger. I think it would have won. But I saw an improportion, you know, a lot of material on the bottom, and she's got a perfect body, but a lot of material on the bottom and hardly anything on the top. Itty bitty.
Titty committee?
Yeah, there you go. I was trying to figure out how the rest of that went. I don't know.
I remember being in junior high. Are you in the IBTC? And I'm like, what's that?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to find out, but I did.
But what a beautiful color. And she's gorgeous. That was the only thing that was off for me.
Well, I really loved this, though, when it first came out onto the runway. The model was really selling it. Luckily, Lindsay had a perfect lingerie model because she was really like kind of this, even the same coloring as Heidi Klum coming out.
Right.
You know,
she could have won this. You know, look at that collar underneath there too, on that trim. What if he would have put just a little bit of that
more
with
of the
lace
peach
up there and you know, put that together, and it would have balanced a little more.
Well, maybe she would have if she didn't have to go to the hospital.
I don't know what he was thinking. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I think she pulled it together really well.
I think it was really fun.
And I when it first came out, I just really loved the shape of the bottoms.
Yeah.
I like that you have the choice of having a little bit more of a boy short.
Yeah.
Can we stop? Can we just call it something else? I feel like why is it boy shorts? It's for women. Anyway, that's personal. Sorry. Like, why can't it just be girl shorts? But boy shorts make sense for that shape. Anyway, I love the little thong underneath too. I like that you see it through, and
the tease.
And I even love that she thought about the cover up. It was more of like a little top, like. It really had like a shape to the sleeve, and it wasn't just thrown together. Even if it was, it didn't look like it.
Right.
It reminded me of the American Eagle brand of lingerie called Aerie, A-E-R-I-E. If I'm saying that wrong, I'm sorry. But yeah, it's very like junior to me, but a little bit more sophisticated.
It's kind of spunky, like Heidi.
Ooh, it's kind of spunky. I thought it was going to be in the top 3. Honestly. Yeah. Okay, moving on to Candace. Ba-bam! Okay, here we go, Michelle. What did you think?
I love that she did something different. She did like the little garter belt, and I think Heidi really got into that. It's so hard when you just have like bra and panties. I feel like everybody looked the same, so I feel like it was really cool that she kind of pushed it a little bit. I didn't really like the little neon like fins on top. I don't really like the shiny on it, but I think she was definitely going in the right direction, and it's definitely branded.
Yeah. I like the fact that it was different, too. It was, all of a sudden, it was refreshing to see something different. You know, again, I'm not so sure this would be flattering right there for most women, but different. I'm with you. This was a little, I don't know. And the material on the top I didn't like so much, but I liked at least here we had something going on, but not so much I would have choked in it like the other one.
I loved this so much. When she came out,
you're gonna go make it at home, right?
Oh, I don't know how to sew, but I want to make it.
Call Candace. She'll make you one.
Candace, I'm gonna find you on Twitter. I'm gonna request. I just love it so much. I thought as soon as the model came out, I was like, Heidi is gonna love it.
Yeah.
And it's very Heidi Klum to me. And this model is amazing. Look at her. She looks like, a Victoria's Secret model. Yeah. I love the pop of color. I thought it was a nice little surprise on top. I disagree, Michelle. I love the little neon yellow because I think it's interesting and it brings your attention up.
The color, I love the color, and I do like it right there. It's the material that bothers me. If it were something else, I would like it better, but I don't like the way that such a thick material is slapped over.
I like that it's kind of sporty. And I think it's fun. It's like on the runway, it doesn't have to, I feel like runway is one thing and real life is another thing, but maybe they're trying to marry it together on this show more, which I think they are trying to do because they're trying to create it for a line and produce it and sell it to an audience. But I don't know. For me, sometimes I forget all that and I just watch the fashion show.
Yeah.
And usually we're watching the show and writing down our thoughts of the runway. But for me, I saw this and I wanted to stop writing things down. I was just a fan all over again. I'm like, this is just one of those reasons I love to watch the show. It's very dramatic, and I don't know. It's one of those things that you wouldn't think would be comfortable, but the model was very comfortable in it.
She sold it.
It's one of those things that could be like overworked and like all these like sexy pieces together. It's kind of like cumbersome, but it was very like a breath of fresh air. Like you said, I don't know. I'm not sticking to little thoughts today. I'm just going on and on, ranting and raving, but I love it. Okay, Joseph. We go from wow to All right, Michelle, what did you think?
I definitely like how he mixed the colors. Like, this isn't my cup of tea, but I could see this in a store. I could see this, like, in Target or something.
Target,
cup of tea would be a cute name for a lingerie brand.
Two cups of tea.
2 cups of tea. Oh, boy. Okay. Sorry.
I'm really glad he kind of lost that middle bit. It's like, okay, Joseph is the only one that could make lingerie matronly somehow.
Yeah.
So I'm glad he kind of came away from that. I still see, like, a cute mom could wear this still, but it's still cute, and I think, like, you could sell it a lot of different places.
Yeah, when it was going across like this, I was like, what's up with that, right?
He always has that tendency. It's so
all across
scary.
the middle. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, no, I thought the modification of what he did here was very, very attractive. And for me, if I look at it from the waist up, not bad.
Yeah.
You know, but then we got all this thick stuff going down here. Too much. You know, if it were less material, and again, you know, I don't know. It could have worked a little bit better. Different bottom.
I did not like his color combination.
Really?
Yes. I love a bright pink. That was definitely a Victoria's Secret pink.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you guys. The top was successful, the bottom, I don't know.
Yeah.
So let's move on to Merlene. Oh, okay. Here's Merlene up close and personal. What do you think, Michelle?
I liked the idea better when I saw the original one of the mannequin, which looked very similar. It just fit a lot better. This to me looks like a preteen bra, you know, like a training bra that she tried to put on this woman, and it just doesn't fit. And I really like the idea, and I really like that Merlene didn't use one of the bras that they gave him to build off of. She kind of started from scratch.
Yeah, we didn't like that idea of like, here you go, you're a lingerie challenge, here's a bra. Just
cheating.
put stuff on top of it. No! Okay.
But she kind of just trusted herself a little more and started her idea from scratch, and I think that she came up with something a little different that way. When everybody's building off the same bra, like, it's all gonna kind of look the same. So
I would have to agree. I would agree that she and Ashley, when they were working their design in the room, seemed like they were in the zone. They were trusting whatever inspiration was giving them, and she went for it. I think overall this design is fantastic. You know, the part where I'm hung up a little bit is just the whole fitting here in the cup. You know, she looks a little saggy and she doesn't even really have anything going on there. So, I mean, I guess I would have liked something a little more form-fitting, and maybe something that would appear, again, to fit somebody more than a double A.
Yeah. When Merlene's model was in the workroom with her before the fashion show, she was doing her fitting, and it was like, what's going on? One cup's way over here, and one cup's way over here. It's a discrepancy, people. I don't know. I wrote down tortured boobies. I don't know. That sounds awful out loud. But it looks, I don't know. It didn't say to me, it wasn't something that I was drawn to. But after taking a step back, like you say, and saying, okay, let's take another look at it. I love that she didn't use that bra as a, starting place. She just went for it and made something of her own, totally. Yeah. And so I applaud her for that.
Right model's body for that design.
I know,
I'll
right?
tell you, for sure. And
Perfect.
some of those other models that would have never pulled off, but on her body that worked.
Thank goodness.
Well, I think sometimes it sucks in the workroom. You're working on a mannequin, your model doesn't come until later. You end up with fit issues sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think if she could have fit this, it would have been like amazing. It's totally saleable. I could see it in a dozen stores.
And I love the lines. It's very flattering, that V-neck. So moving on to Blake. we have, oh boy, Michelle, what did you think?
This was like a sad boob warrior girl.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Susan, what did you think?
Well, it's a shame. I think this was one of the biggest shames because I think the color could have been really fun. I think the design actually could have been fun if he would have created a little more lift in the boob and maybe not cut so much across, you know, a little bit of different shape on the top. You know, this came up too high for my taste. I felt like she was really yanking them up.
The size of the panties.
But, you know, I mean, if it had been a little bit lower, that concept could have worked. It just...
I do like
I agree.
I like some of the ideas, but he definitely needed more of a cup and just sad pink boobs.
Yeah.
All right, moving to Laurie. Laurie. The picture is coming, but we'll start talking about it anyway. Go ahead, Michelle.
So I thought this was like super fancy. Love the top, love the little knot. The top part looks really expensive and clean. The bottom, I felt like didn't really go with it. It was more of the lace, and I didn't see it as a set.
So we might not have our picture here, but it's okay. This is the design that was navy blue and purple, and it had the top was, you know, really beautifully worked. It had that knot in the middle of the bra, and it had the blue lace up the side, so it was really flattering. And the panties had that center seam that people were not so sure about, and they were up really high. And then there was that other purple panel that went up to the sides of her waist. So go ahead, Susan.
Well, you know, interestingly, the designer knew that seam up the front was going to be a problem, and she didn't trust her instinct. She said it out loud, "Oh, I don't know what to do. The seam's going to go up the front. I have no other choice. Well, I'm going to do it anyway."
She had other fabric.
And she had other fabric, but
Yeah.
I thought that was such a great example of how we are hearing, don't go there. And we just don't pause and think of other possibilities like you're saying. We just keep moving forward and ignore that. And that's exactly what got in the way of them really liking her design, along with, they said it was kind of granny pants because it was up really high, and I did agree with that.
Yeah, and she knew. Kim didn't have to tell her. Nobody told her.
She knew
literally
going into it, but she ignored herself.
Yeah.
The only thing I loved about the panties was that high waistband, the little purple piece. I thought it was kind of sexy. I don't know. I thought it was an interesting thing that I haven't seen a lot. The bra was great. I cannot tell you how much I hate the rest of the panty. It was just awful. But now we have our last design, Kelly. So go ahead, Michelle.
It was, I don't know. I know you guys like this one, but I like the top. I thought as a set, it's sporty. It's kind of, I get the cute vibe, and I get that it's Kelly, but for me it was like too much going on, and then she had this like little cape to go with it. I didn't think it was flattering or approachable.
What did you think, Susan K?
Well, it's not my style. I thought it worked great on her body. I thought, you know, again, if we're looking for something interesting, it was different. You know, I'm like, wow, you know, that's like a sports bra set, but there's a little bit of femininity to it. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of fun. You know, you go work out with your significant other and you come home and woo, you know. But the color combination, I didn't quite get the lavender with that color green.
To be honest with you, I thought this was going to win. You guys might think I'm crazy. I love the color combination. I like the hard of it and the soft of it together, that it's sporty and feminine. I think a lot of people would be on board with it, maybe in a different color combo. But if you could look at it in, let's just say it was all black and white, maybe you would love it. It's just, maybe the color's throwing some people off, but
I think you're right.
I did like
I think if it was black and white, I would love it.
I think it's very fresh.
Except for the cape.
Or even hot pink where the lavender was. Maybe.
Just it's too weird of a combination.
It's too
for
weird
me.
for some. Might be throwing your eyes off a little. But just because we want to talk about Susan Kay's amazing book, I'm going to get right to it. Top 3 were Swap No, Marlene, Ashley. Bottom 3 were Laurie, Jake, and Blake. Blake is out with the sad pink boobies. And Marlene is the winner, who decided to opt for not using the template of the bra. She created her own way. She went her own way, and it was very successful. So, Susan, I'm going right into your book, Ego at Work.
Yes.
And so I love the title because you are a business coach, a life coach, and so you're not only saying the ego is working for you, but it is at work
Always.
At your place of work, too.
Right.
So tell us a little bit more about your book and how it can apply to all of our lives.
Right. Well, we saw that happen in the show, right? That we were just talking about. Our ego's always at work. It lives alongside of us. And the more aware we are of it, who's running the show? Is it my little ego that's running the show? Is it my big ego where I'm not listening to anybody else and I won't take input? My little ego takes it in too much, right? And I get offended like you were talking about. Or is it my ego strength where I'm really connected to my inspiration and I trust myself and I'm in my own flow, not worrying so much about the outcome, but more concerned about creating out of inspiration. And the book really talks about that. And that's everywhere in our life, right? To trust ourselves, that's at work, that's in relationships. So, we're showing up and we're being authentic and we're being our truth and speaking our truth.
And Michelle, you talked about this a little bit about Susan writing this ego chart? Workout. Ego workout. Okay, tell us a little bit more about the ego workout.
Yeah, we have 20 techniques in the book to help you know who's running the show, which part of your ego, and is it helping or hindering you. But I have to say my favorite technique is what you found right away, which is that ego workout. Because the ego workout allows you to notice if you get triggered. If you get triggered and you feel offended or you're angry or that puts you into this place of fear, and instead of thinking it's somebody else, something somebody else did or said, and projecting that emotion out here, it allows you to come inside and examine. Examine what emotions got triggered in me and take a look at that and the message that your ego is telling yourself, so you get to decide, do I want that to run my show or not? And that way, we're more apt to be operating from our essence. So, for example, let's go back to the runway. Let's say I was one of those designers and she came over and she was like, what were you thinking about those colors? Well, I might get triggered, right? I might be offended for a moment, like, ooh, I feel embarrassed. That was my favorite part of the design. But then I get to look at that and I get to say, okay, do I want to be in that reaction? Do I want to be offended or do I want to be open-minded and say, well, tell me more?
What do you mean by your essence?
It's really, if we all really think about it, we know we have this still small voice inside that guides us. Or some people might say this gut feeling. We've all had that at some time in our life. And that's really our essence. And the more we learn to listen to that, the more we learn to allow that to guide us, we are operating from our essence, who we're really supposed to be, versus this ego that's always telling us and who we should be and measuring and judging whether we're good enough or not. When we're just in our essence, there's just such a good feeling and connection with just being who we are.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to dive in because it's kind of like, I like that you say ego at work and the workout, because it is like you have to work out your body, your muscles, and you have to work out what's going on the inside.
That's a great analogy, right?
Yeah.
I'd be interested to hear your opinion. Do you think women have more of a problem with this in the workplace or men? Because in my experience working with a lot of women around, sometimes the egos are a bigger problem than men. And there's more emotions involved and they tend to be less in tune with them or more in tune with them.
And I would say each gender has their own issues around the ego. Men were taught that they have to provide, that they have to protect, that they really should have all the answers, that they should be strong, don't show any weakness or you're a little sissy, right? So they tend to be more in their big ego and they mask any sort of vulnerability and quite often are unaware that that vulnerability, that fear is going on inside of them, and that's part of why they're masking, because when they were little and they were, they fell down, they say, hey, get up, don't cry, don't be a baby, right? So that's what they learn, and that's how they operate, and that's their big ego. Women, on the other hand, are taught since they are little, ooh, don't be too strong. because if you're too strong, you might threaten a male's ego, and you're not going to be desirable.
Yeah,
and
like, he's not going to like you.
He's not going to like you, and you're better off being very submissive and fold your hands and say you don't mind and say you don't care.
And yes, dear.
Yes, dear, and I don't have an opinion. And by all means, don't argue, because if you argue, you're going to be considered the big B, and we're not talking about beautiful now, are we?
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, well...
And that's our little ego then. Then we're operating out of being smaller than who we really are.
I feel that sometimes.
Right? So for both genders to learn how to be in their ego strength, which is really, being in that divine connection, but also admitting when we do get triggered, because we do. And when we do, guess what? We have a moment where we get to decide, is that part of us going to lead or not?
That's really powerful.
Because I can let that go. I can be triggered and be, taken back for a moment. And I always go like this, because the ego's right there, right? I can notice that being triggered. And I can take a look at that and say, do I want that aspect of me to run the show or not? No, I'm going to put that away. I'm going to calm from my ego strength and my confidence instead and be open-minded.
Keep calm and essence on.
Yeah, there you go.
And I think this is a great book for artists, because I feel like artists are more like feeling, and this is more strategic, and it's more like
very perceptive.
Sit back and realize what's happening and take control. And I see that on the show too. Like, they're just like, I have to make something. Oh, and I'm stressed out. And the designers that do a better job are the ones that step back and analyze what's going on, even if it's for 5 minutes.
And that's why that part of the show was so fun for me to watch. And while, maybe they chose those people, for the production quality, I don't know. I think that's what you really see in life. When I go in the workplace, I see all those personalities. That's real.
Yeah.
And the people that are the most successful in their life learn to get over themselves. In other words, that ego aspect that's getting in the way.
I love that. I love that you explain get over yourself, because people say that, but it's like, how do I do that? So, Ego at Work, Susan K. Wehrley. Check it out. Where can people get this fabulous book? Do you have a website?
I do.
And I'm sure it's in bookstores too.
Oh, yeah. No, it's actually available everywhere. And you can go on Amazon.com. You can go on BarnesandNoble.com. You can go into any bookstore. You can get the book. And by the way, if you're in the LA area, I'm launching the book Friday, 9/11, that's tomorrow, at the Small World Books. I'm going to be doing a little talk from 6:30 till 7 o'clock at night. If you can't come, go on Periscope. It'll be streaming live from 6:30 to 7. You can find me at Biz Remedies. At Biz Remedies, and you can hear my little book talk. But yes, you can get it anywhere.
I thought so. I jumped to the website too soon.
Egoatwork.com. That's our website.
Okay, but I'm so excited to read it. And Michelle,
me too.
Where can we find you online? Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Uberreste.
And you guys can find me, Amanda Fields-Bennett, on Instagram and Twitter at The Runway Queen. Thank you again, Susan K., for being with us tonight.
So fun.
And we'll see you next week.
I'm going to get a whole new lingerie wardrobe. That's it. I'm inspired.
And we'll be recapping next week, so tune in. Project Runway. Here we go.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Bye. See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.